Hello everyone, I am Duke James. I like doing the Vietnam campaign so much that I'm going to go ahead and redo the Vietnam campaign so that we can enjoy it all over again, but a second time now, and fix some of the... No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna look at some of the changes from Vietnam. So Vietnam took place on Alpha 19, and we're now on Alpha 23. With some hotfixes in there as well, so there's been a decent amount of changes. A lot of changes are behind the scenes to calculations, so I'm going to look at some of the more forward-facing ones that I think will actually change the way that you play the game. So, first thing is there are some new idea groups added. Some religious idea groups have been added into the game. For diplomatic ideas, there's evangelical ideas, and for admin ideas, there's civic religion ideas and scholastic ideas. Out of these, I think evangelical is the one that I would probably gravitate towards, especially since I think there's not enough diplomatic idea groups. So evangelical gives an extra missionary maintenance cost, negative 50%, missionary strength versus heretics, plus 2%, religious unity, 25%, some prestige per development, 0.05, cost of enforcing religion through war, negative 33%, gives this Deus Vult CB, though now it's called Empire of Truth. This was in the game, but it was a demand from the church, which is nice that they put this back in now, because that cost, I think, 10 loyalty from the church, and it only lasted 10 years, so once you take this, it is now a permanent CB against nearby heathens and heretics. And then there's some spy network construction plus 15%, missionary strength 3%, war score cost versus other religions negative 20%, and an extra missionary. So this gives 2 missionaries, 3% missionary strength, which will help converting provinces. And then some other stuff that CB, cost of enforcing, and spy network construction, which is iffy. Spy network construction, actually, I don't think it's that horrible. Kind of warming up to it. It's nice if you have 2 diplomats, because then you can get faster spy networks. Of course, if you have like 4 diplomats, then that's not that great. Alright, the 2 admin ideas are civic religion ideas, which gives tolerance to the true faith plus 1, 5% national manpower modifier, 0.25 yearly legitimacy, negative 0.05 monthly autonomy change, negative 50% stability increase interval, 20% foreign spy detection, negative 50% admin advisor cost, plus 0.1 spiritualist influence, and negative 20% harsh treatment cost. This is definitely a more tolerant playthrough. Monthly autonomy change is nice. Stability increase interval is also nice. Most of these, the other ones though, 5% national manpower is nice. Probably not gonna take this one that much unless I'm doing a campaign that I want to do as many religious ideas as possible. And then scholastic, I feel like this is hardly a religion group, but this gives institution spread in true faith provinces plus 10%, negative 1% prestige decay, plus 1 possible advisors, negative 15% institution embracement cost, plus 1 tolerance of heathens, negative 5% idea cost, plus 10% knowledge output, and a flat negative 7.5% tech cost. So that tech cost reduction is nice, and the idea cost reduction is nice as well. And then some institution spread. Knowledge output is nice as well. I'm not sure negative 7.5% tech cost is enough to make this a go-to, but potentially. These two will probably be situational. This one, probably something that I would take quite often, I imagine, if I'm going tall. They did mention that these idea groups are subject to balancing So they will probably change the values at some point going forward. Another change which should be pretty noticeable if you watch my Vietnam campaign is Dai Viet is now this beautiful golden color instead of that puke brown that it used to be. So I'm just gonna go ahead and immediately take credit for that and say that's because they watched my Vietnam campaign and they were like, we have to do this country justice, and they changed it to the gold color that it is now. I base that on absolutely no evidence, but it is obviously the way that happened. Another change is they've added the amount of troops, ships, and manpower reserves onto the country view down here. They kind of locked it under, but I think they were forced to do that because there's no room up here. But that is good to know at a glance, so that's nice. And then another change is to advisors. So advisors now have their status effects back. Like this guy gives urban production efficiency plus 1% and tech cost negative 2.5%, and they still belong to factions. I believe it's random who belongs to what, because these guys do the same thing, but this guy belongs to the aristocrats and this guy belongs to the bureaucrats. So initially I thought it lined up to, like, if a guy gives like prestige and prestige decay, he belongs to the aristocrats, and if he gives like trade benefits, then he belongs to the merchants, but that isn't actually how that is. Although I think it mostly lines up with that, but not truly all the time, so I think it's just random for the most part. Another change was to trade nodes, so they changed around the trade nodes, I think to make trade flow better. They went ahead and they massacred Vietnam, so they changed the color and then they cut the trade node in half. So half of Vietnam, the northern part, now belongs to the Lian Nguyen trade node, which makes this trade node huge, and it makes the Champa Sea trade node very small. I'm not sure why that was done specifically, but it seems like they changed it to make some trade nodes coastal. Like the Konkan node is just this tiny little strip here. So I have to imagine that was done to make it easier for the European powers to transfer trade and goods from China back to Europe. So that node was changed from what I can see. This was changed a little bit over here. They changed some names, like this is now Zanj, which I think it used to be African East Coast. And then you have South America, which is like 3 coastal trade nodes. And then the Amazonia in the middle. Iberia, like the southern section of Iberia, it's hard to see with these modifiers, but the southern part of Iberia was added to the Strait of Gibraltar, which is also the Morocco area. I think that's another change, and then... oh yeah, there's one Danube now. There used to be 2 Danube nodes, so there's one Danube node now, which is giant right there, and then the Aegean Sea node takes over where that other Danube node used to be. But I think Anatolia shifted to the left, Aegean Sea shifted to the left, Danube was rolled into one node. Adriatic Sea, Tyrrhenian Sea. Oh yeah, there was also this, I believe, right here, this node was added. The Po Valley node, so the Tyrrhenian Sea had that entire Po Valley area ripped from it and added into that its own node. From what I can see, there's probably some other changes as well, but I just don't remember them. It looks like Arabia. I think that was a white node over here, so that is also now more coastal. Probably to transfer trade as well. So a lot more nodes are more towards the sea than before. Trade is supposed to have had a lot of work done to it, specifically with the way Europeans colonize, so they'll try to create chains going to China more often. So I think before, like in my Dai Viet campaign, they would just grab random territory, so they wouldn't have chains going. But now they're supposed to grab more chains. They're supposed to also focus on colonial areas that don't have other countries in them, and they're supposed to focus more on colonial nations where they have a lot of provinces in them already. So I think there should be less scattered colonies and countries all over here, and more chunks, and then more chains going to China as well from Europe. So that should smooth out trade a little bit, I believe. And then there's a whole lot of changes to trade, just the way that the countries trade goods, just to make that smooth out this system a little bit. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff on that. Another change was to Mercenaries. So they have these mercenary companies now. I haven't played vanilla EU4 since the Dharma update. I did a cult campaign, and that was the last time I ever played vanilla EU4, because it is pretty much like comparing a child's kindergarten drawing to a Peter Paul Rubens. I don't want to put my eyes on that. I only want the good stuff, immune taxes, not to vanilla EU4. So I'm not entirely sure the difference between mercenary companies here and mercenary companies in EU4, and I'm not entirely versed in them, but I'm pretty sure it's like Crusader Kings 2, where you just recruit mercenaries. Apparently we have no mercenaries, so I can't really talk about them, but they have pools of mercenaries now that you can recruit from. So it's no more individual, and they have manpower, which kind of sucks. No more thousands of endless mercs. Although that is good for fighting China, because we ran into that in the Dai Viet campaign, where they had massive mercs, like 200,000 merc units that just had infinite manpower, which should hopefully be gone with now. So that is nice. The game should also run smoother around year-round, but then also specifically around 2 points in January and July, because that's when 2 calculations are done. So theoretically, it should run smoother now. The first year is still kind of rough, but after that, it should improve, which is nice, because I think January would take me 25 seconds to get through. Not the entire month, just that one day where the calculations are done. So I would have to stop. I would stop recordings and then restart them once that was through, which was kind of annoying to do. So if I could avoid doing that, because it runs smoother, that would be nice. The last major change that I'm aware of is this. This is now the estate menu. It is a lot to look at first, but it actually lays out everything a little bit easier at a glance. So you have your bureaucracy up here, which is this big old chunk right here, then your nobility, your burghers, your tribes, and your clergy. So these are the reforms and privileges in these sections. Everybody has them except the tribes, because they don't have anything. So that is an easy way to look at what reforms and privileges your country has without going through menus and scrolling and everything. So that's nice to look at that in a glance. Then you have your loyalty and your power on the side. And then you have all of your menus to the right as well. Every time you hit a menu, this pop-up pops up. The event happens, which is kind of annoying, but it's manageable. Just press C and then it goes away. Just one extra click. Then you have this pie chart here, which shows your country's, your state's resources. There's resource share right here. So like the lower class has 48% of the resource share in our country, and then there's urban property share. The lower class has 39%, clergy 29%, burghers 25%. Just kind of weird, the urban property share. Probably because the clergy have a lot of education stuff. Then there's wealth share. The nobility are the wealthiest people in the country with 39%. because they exploit the peasants, and then faction influence. The nobility has 55% of the faction influence. I imagine is this. So yeah, this is now easier to look at, which is nice. It's a lot to take in at first, but takes some getting used to. And that is the changes from Alpha 19 to Alpha 23, and then a whole lot of behind-the-scenes changes, of course. A lot of things that make the game work better and such. So thank you for watching, and I'm gonna start my next campaign soon. Hopefully it will be out soon, so goodbye.